Do you want to learn how to draw trend lines? Do you want me to teach and review the trend lines you have drawn personally? Friends, I'm happy to do that. And also you get more. I have a small assignment in this video. 3 lucky winners who completes the assignment will win 2 of my latest book, The Subtle Art of Intraday Trading and How to Make Money in Stock Market Trading. So without wasting much time, let's start. Friends, before I explain how to draw trend lines, I want to give certain caution messages. So you should not try to draw trend lines on stocks like this, because whenever a stocks displays these kind of characteristics, most probably, it is under the influence of an operator. I'm not saying this company is under the influence of operator, but what happens is whenever you see price action like this, so for example, there is no trading activity on this day. So on this day, so on these days, so too many gaps and too many buying wicks and selling wicks, it doesn't look good actually. See here, there is no trading activity on these days. So there will be many companies like this. For example, if I go to some other companies like this, see here also the price action is not very smooth, right? See here, there is no trading activity here. Suppose let's say you got a very good trade opportunity, you might have taken the trade, but you may not be able to close your position. So that is the reason I always avoid these kind of stocks. And also, if you see these kind of wicks on both the sides, buying wick and selling wick on both the sides, it is better to avoid those stocks, because unnecessarily it might trigger your entry, or unnecessarily it might trigger your stop loss and again moves in the same direction. So that is number one caution message. And you should also see, for example, I will go to Titan. So what I have noticed is, suppose if you are a learning perspective, if you draw a trend line for the past data, it is fine. But if the overall idea of drawing a trend line is to look for trade opportunities for the current data, right? For example, I can draw a trend line like this and I can say the price is, it is very close to breakout, and I can look for breakout trade opportunities. So in that sense, if I draw a trend line like this, which it is very recent, it is very close to the recent data, right? The trend line intersects with the recent data. So in this case, it makes sense. But if you draw a trend line for the past data, for example, you might draw a trend line like this. It might be a valid trend line, but what is the purpose? If you are learning how to draw trend line, it is fine. But if you have already learned the trend line, and if you draw the trend line for the past data, then it doesn't make any sense actually, because it's of no use, right? Price is already somewhere here, and this trend line will not have an impact on the current market data, because it's already came too much actually. Okay, so that is one more caution message. And I also have one more caution message. For example, whenever I ask people to draw a trend line, they say how much data include. See, should I zoom in, zoom out, chart like this? Should I draw a trend line like this, or should I zoom in like this and draw a trend line? People will ask this question many times. See friends, it is very common sense actually. See, if you are drawing a trend line and daily chart, means ensure you include at least 6 months, minimum 6 months of data to 1 year. See, for example, today is August, right? See, if I keep like this, see, approximately it is almost 11 months, which means 1 year data I already have it. So don't go for complete zoom in, also don't go for complete zoom out. Both have, it doesn't make any sense, okay? So this is one thing. And you should always know, there are no, fortunately or unfortunately, there are no specific rules to draw trend lines on any chart, okay? There are no rules actually, that's how it is. See, for example, if I go to Shriram Finance, suppose let's say the market is here, I will draw a trend line like this. Okay, so I will draw a trend line like this. You show this to any trading expert, okay, whether they are intermediate level expert or final expert, you show this trend line to any person, they will say this is a valid trend line, okay. That is for sure. They will say it is a valid trend line. But at the same time, let's say I draw a trend line like this. Okay, I will draw a trend line like this and show this to any trading expert, and they will say this is not a valid trend line, it needs minor adjustment. Okay, it comes from we do follow some standards which are not written anywhere, so we do follow some standards. So in this video I'm going to explain those standards actually. Okay, so the number one rule is price peaks. When I say price peaks, when you are drawing a trend line, try to connect more number of peaks as much as possible. See, in this case, I've connected one peak, I've connected second peak, I've connected third, I've connected fourth, I've connected 5 peaks. See, in this trend line, I've connected 5 peaks. See, whenever you draw a trend line which connects more number of peaks, then that becomes a very powerful trend line. Okay, let's say I have drawn one more trend line. For example, I have drawn one more trend line. It is connected only 2 peaks. Now this is also a valid trend line. This might be also a valid trend line, but compared to this trend line, this is a very powerful trend line. Okay, so try to connect maximum number of peaks as much as possible. See, for example, let's say let's say the market is here. So we can also draw a trend line like this. For example, I can draw a trend line like this. So this is also a valid trend line because I've connected 1, 2, 3, 4, around 5 peaks actually. Okay, so this is also a valid trend line. Now, what many people does a mistake is, if I ask them to connect peaks, so what they do is they do like this. And they say I have connected 2 peaks, but this is a wrong way of drawing a trend, and most beginners does this because you consider this as a peak, right? But this is not a peak, friends, because price is still fluctuating. You say this is a peak, this is a valid peak because price from here it came down, right? This is a peak actually, like this, right? See, this is a peak, this is a peak, this is a peak, but here it is not yet confirmed, right? Price can do like this and then it can go up. So in that case, this will become a peak, or somewhere some other thing will become a peak. So you should not try to connect the last trading day of any chart and say this is a peak. So this is a really bad way of representing the data. This will not become a peak. So this is a peak, 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 this is a peak. You are getting my point, right? Because price came back from that point. It went in the opposite direction from that point. That's why it is called as peak. But in this case, it's not yet confirmed. It might come back, but it might go also like this. It can make another peak. So always don't try to connect the last trading day and say it is a valid peak. Okay. So rule number one is you should try to connect maximum peaks as much as possible. See, for example, for trend line drawing perspective, I will go back and I will draw some trend line like this so that you will understand. See, in this case, for example, I will go to Nifty. See, you can draw a trend line like this. Okay. Let's say the market is here. See, you can draw a trend line like this. In this case, you connected 1 peak, 2 peak, 3 peak, and 4 peak, 5 peak, right? So if the market is here, it cannot be considered as a peak. So as of now, we are connected close to 5 peaks. So whenever you draw a trend line with 5 peaks, it is a powerful trend line as much as possible. If you connect more than 2, 3, 4, 5, it is a valid trend line. It becomes a powerful trend line as well. See, you can also draw a trend line like this. See, for example. See, as compared to the trend line which connected 5 peaks, this becomes a least powerful trend line because you connected only 3 peaks, right? So this becomes a least powerful trend line. You should try to connect more number of peaks as much as possible. See, here I can draw a trend line like this. Right? I have connected 1, 2, 3, 4, close to 4 peaks actually. So this becomes a decent powerful trend line actually. Okay, so this is one thing, and the next thing is the slope of the trend line. See friends, whenever, for example, we'll go to Bank Nifty. For example, let's say you have drawn a trend line like this. Ensure the slope of the trend line should be less than 45 degree compared to the imaginary horizontal line. Let's say this is an imaginary horizontal line. See the cursor what I'm showing, the price is showing here 43,596, right? So assume this is an imaginary line. I will draw a line like this so that you will understand this. So assume this is an imaginary horizontal line. The angle between your trend line and this imaginary horizontal line should be less than 45 degree. It should be less than 45 degree. The reason is very simple, friend. For example, what I do is I will go to some stocks. I will remove this. I'll go to daily charts. See, I can draw a trend line like this. See, for example, I can draw a trend line like this. Let's say for assume price is somewhere here. Assume I can draw a trend line like this. So because I've connected a peak here, connected a peak here, connected a peak here, I've connected 3 peaks. But if you draw an imaginary horizontal line here, it's an imaginary horizontal line. The slope is close to or more than 45 degree, right? So this doesn't indicate the trend line slope health is very good actually. See, whenever the price moves like this, okay, so when you it is a smooth trend actually. Okay, the angle less than 45 degree indicates the sign of a smooth trend. You should always try to take a trade in stocks which displays a smooth trend line actually. Okay, so whenever price goes like this, this doesn't indicate it is a smooth trend. So you should always avoid certain stocks in which the slope is very, very high actually. So I will remove this. Now, for example, I can go to one more example. See, here also you can draw a trend line like this. So you can draw a trend line like this, assuming the price is somewhere here. But once again, see, this is more than 45 degree, right? So this is not a sign of an healthy trend. So always avoid stocks in which the slope of the trend line increases more than 45 degree. And you should always remember one more thing, friends. There is no need to draw a trend line in all the stocks. It is not necessary. There is no rule. If you can't spot an opportunity to draw a proper trend line in any stock, you skip it. You don't have to draw trend line, right? It is not necessary. Okay, so that is also one thing. And I also seen some people make this kind of mistakes. Whenever I ask them to draw a trend line, so what they do is they draw one trend line like this. They draw another trend line like this. They draw another trend line like this. They draw one more trend line like this. So see, friends, you should know the idea of drawing a trend line. The basic logic and reason to draw trend lines is to look for a potential and profitable trade opportunities and not to participate in a Rangoli participation. See, if you draw a trend line like this, it looks like a rangoli, right? Because if you go to village side, ladies will draw trend line like, the rangoli like this. So your trend line should not look like a rangoli, it should look like a trend line. So the simple and the basic thumb rule is, you should not draw more than two trend lines. Two lines are more than enough. Okay, whatever you want to convey, you should convey within the two trend line maximum. See, this is the maximum two trend lines you can draw. You should not draw a third trend line, because again it starts increasing the complication, right? So that is the idea. See, for example, if I go to some other stock, see, from drawing a trend line perspective, you can draw a trend line like this, right? So when you draw a trend line like this, see, let's assume price is somewhere here. You have connected 1 peaks, 2 peak, 3 peak. This is not a 4th peak, because that will be the current price, assuming price is here. So you connected 3 peaks. This is a decent trend line. So this is enough actually. Even there is no need to draw a support trend line also. But if you want to draw a support trend line, it is fine. So if you draw true trend line like this, so what this indicates is, price is going in this channel. If the price comes to the support trend line, look for a long trade opportunities. If the price comes to resistance trend line, look for a short trade opportunities. Suppose by any chance, if the price breaks above the resistance trend line, then look for a breakout trade opportunity. In this case, price displayed opened with a gap. It didn't fill the gap. There is a bullish engulfing on the next day. You can look for a long trade opportunities further, right? So that is what it indicates actually. But if you draw many, you can also draw many trend line like this, right? See, this is also a valid trend line. You can also draw trend line like this. This is also a trend line. So if you start drawing like this, you can also draw one more trend line here. See, you can also draw trend line here. So if you start drawing trend line like this, it unnecessarily increases the complication. You will not be able to make proper decision by analyzing these many trend lines. So I always suggest to restrict the count of lines you will draw on the chart. So maximum should be only 2. Okay, so now, as of now, we have learned 3 rules. So number 1 is, you should try to connect maximum number of picks as much as possible. Minimum 2 you should connect. That is number 1 rule. Number 2nd rule is, the slope of the trend line, whatever the trend line you draw, if you consider this is horizontal line, the slope should be less than 45 degree from your trend line. That is number 2. And number 3rd rule is, you should draw only maximum 2 lines as trend lines. You are not supposed to draw more than 2 lines as trend line, because it looks very ugly. It complicates the analysis actually. So that is one thing. And you should always remember, the 4th rule is, the price should respect the trend line. See, for example, I can go to some stocks like this. See, some people, again, as I discussed earlier, this is not an very good stock to take the trade, right? See, if here there is there is no trade opportunity, lot of gaps, lot of buying, selling, because there are gaps here as well. See, some people, what they does is, they draw a trend line like this. And they say, I have connected some peak. See, for example, I have connected a peak here, I have connected a peak here, I have connected a peak. That's what they say. But if you observe very carefully, that the price has not respected the trend line in this case, right? See, whenever you draw a trend line like this, the importance of this trend line automatically decreases, because the price has not respected this trend line, right? So you should always draw trend lines in which the price has respected the trend line with most of the cases. Okay, so that's very important. I can also go for some other example. I can take some other example. If I go to here, See, you can also, I mean, the beginners draw trend line like this, and they say I've connected couple of picks, 4 or 5 picks, it is a valid trend line. But once again, if you observe very carefully, the price has not respected the trend line here and here properly, right? So automatically the importance, the power potential of the trend line decreases. So if you see any chart like this, you don't have to draw trend line, friends. You should always skip actually. Okay, there is no need, there is no mandatory to draw trend line like this. Okay, you should always skip. Okay, so there were 4 rules as of now discussed. So number 1 is peak. Try to connect more number of peaks as much as possible. That is the number 1 rule. The slope should be less than 45 degree. That is the number 2nd rule. And number 3rd rule is only draw 2 lines as trend line. You should not draw more than 2 lines as the trend lines. Number 4th rule is, the price should respect the trend line actually. Okay, so these are the 4 important rules. Now considering these 4 important rules, I will try to draw trend lines in some of the stocks. See, for example, I will go to Tata Motors and I will try to draw trend lines in front of you. See here, I can draw one valid trend line like this. Okay, so this is a valid trend line. See, for example, this is, I have connected 1 peak, I have connected 2 peak, I have connected 3 peaks. See, I have connected 3 peaks, price displayed a breakout. So this, until this point, it was a resistance trend line, but here the price, broke the resistance trend line and it went upside. Okay, so this is actually a valid resistance trend line. If I go past, see, there is I can also draw a trend line like this. See, I can also draw a trend line like this. In this case, I connected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 peaks. Actually, again, it displayed a breakout here. Here also we can draw a trend line like this. Okay, so because if you observe this line very, very carefully, I have followed all the rules, right? See, for example, I've connected more than 2 peaks, right? I've connected 3 peaks. So number 1 rule is satisfied. The slope of the trend line is less than 45 degree, right? The 2nd rule is satisfied. I have not drawn more than 2 trend lines, right? 3rd rule is satisfied. The price is respect to the trend line, right? So anywhere the price has not gone up and down, came down like this, right? So it has respected the trend line. So I have satisfied all the 4th rule, right? Now I will go to some other stock. See, for example, I have go to Bajaj Auto. So in this case, what I can do is I can draw a trend line like this. See, for example, I can draw a trend line like this. Okay. Or I can also draw a trend line like this. I think this trend line make very sense because it connect more number of peaks. So I will delete this trend line. See, in this case, I've connected 1 peak, 2nd peak, 3rd peak, 4th peak, 5th peak. So I've connected 5 peaks. So this becomes a powerful trend line. And you might ask, Indra, there is a big selling week. It is like it is not respected the trend line. What do you say? See, friends, 1 wick is acceptable. So 1 big wick like this indicates, in fact, it highlights the importance of the trend line. It says big buyers are waiting below this trend line. In fact, it highlights the importance of the trend line. Just one day activity, big spike is acceptable. Okay, so you should not say, but if the price spends more time here, 2-3 days means it becomes invalid. If it goes up, then it becomes invalid. But only 1 day activity, in fact, it indicates, it highlights the importance of the buyers. It says buyers are waiting below the trend line. So that's what it indicates. So this is a valid trend line. You can also, if needed, you can also draw a trend line like this. So this shows that it is an resistance trend line and price is going within this slope. Okay, the price is going with this slope. This highlights the trend is going in this slope. Okay, so this is one thing. If I go to some other stock, I have made a note of few stocks actually. If I go to Maruti Suzuki, see here I can draw a trend line like this. See, once again I've connected 1, 2, 3 peaks, right? this is also considered as peak. See, there is only 1 day activity which is acceptable. If there were 2-3 days activity above the trend line, means I would have clearly said the price has not respected the trend line. But in this case, there is only one big selling week, right? So big selling week indicates, there were big sellers above this trend line. So until the price breaks this trend line and this high, the sellers are in control. That's what it indicates. You can also draw a trend line like this. If you go to the past, this is only from a study perspective. Okay, for the current price, you cannot draw a trend line here, right? See, you can also draw a trend line like this. So in this case, you connected 1 peak, 2nd peak, 3rd peak, 4th peak, close to 5th peak, right? So this is a slope is also very less. I would draw only one trend line, assuming the price is somewhere here, right? So connected, and this is a valid trend line actually. Suppose if I go to BPCL, again, you can draw a valid support trend line like this, right? See here, this week, 1 week is acceptable because it indicates again the buying thing, right? So we can expect sideways to upside move until price stays above this trend line. If the price breaks below this trend line, then there is a high possibility of price going down. Okay, so this is one thing. The same rules applicable in all the time frames. Suppose if you are a swing trader, BTST trader, positional trader, you can look for trade opportunities by drawing trend lines on daily time frame. But if you are an intraday trader, you can get into 50-minute time frame and you can look for a potential trade opportunity. See here, there is a potential trade opportunity. It's a very clear trade opportunity. See here. So I've connected close to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 peaks, right? So there is a clear breakout here. From breakout, price went upside, right? So the same rules are applicable in all the time frames. See, for example, if you go to some other chart, some other time frame, if I go to Marutsky once again in a lower time frame, it is loading. So now I'm in Marutsky with 50-minute time frame. See, you can draw a trend line like this, right? See, for example, you can draw a trend line like this. So this becomes a support trend line, right? Okay. So in 50-minute time frame. So you can also draw a trend line like this. So this becomes a resistance trend line, right? See here, you connected close to 4 or 5 peaks, and you can also draw a support trend line like this, right? The same rule applicable to indexes as well. See, what I do is, first I will go to Nifty chart. I will delete all the trend lines for the explanation's sake. See, what I do is, whenever I'm planning to take intraday trades in Nifty, then what I do is, first I will go to daily charts. I will draw the important support and resistance level. See, this is one of the important support level, right? Here the price went upside. This is completely buying. Okay, so I will draw horizontal lines, for example, like this. So this is today's activity. It is still going on, but this price is acted as a resistance on the last 2 days, right? And this level is also very important. Then after drawing this horizontals important level, I will get into 50-minute time frame and I will see whether it requires any adjustment or not. See, this is more than enough, and you can also, this line is also very crucial. So other than these lines, so automatically, I use these levels and the price action at these levels to plan my trades. Now the question is, whenever I explain this kind of crucial level trend lines and all, people will ask one question immediately: Indra, how do you say the price will break the trend line, or how do you say the price will come back? See, for example, assume there will be a resistance trend line. So the people ask, Indra, sometimes price respect trend line and it comes back, but sometimes it breaks the trend line and it goes up. So how do you differentiate this one and this one? This called actually, it is not a breakout, right? This is a breakout. So how do you identify a potential breakout trade opportunity? That's what they ask. See, it is quite simple, friends. See, let's say there is a proper resistance trend line. You assume you have connected close to 4-5 peaks. Okay, so this becomes a proper resistance trend line. You connected close to, assume it came here, so you connected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 peaks. Let's assume you connected 5 peaks. So this becomes automatically a powerful resistance trend line, right? This is a powerful resistance trend line. So now how do I say it displays a how do I say whether it will break out this time? See, whenever the price comes to here, this zone belongs to seller, right friend? This is a proper resistance. This zone belongs to sellers. So whenever the price came to that level, automatically sellers should pitch in and their power should push the price to the downside, right? It should happen immediately. I will repeat once again, it should happen immediately. There is no good time like Rahu Kala, Gulika Kala, Yamaganda Kala, so that they can enter. Big players will not wait for those kind of Kalas. They immediately enter. Let's say the price reached here, but instead of coming down like this in the past, see, if past it came down immediately, right? Instead of coming down like this in the past, assume it started spending more time here. So what this indicates is it is a potential warning. It indicates sellers are trying, but buyers are also there at that level, and their participation is preventing the sellers activity actually. It means because of the buyers participation, either sellers are in less control, which means they have less power at that point of time, or buyers are increasing at that level, right? See, whenever price starts to consolidate at this level and displays a good breakout, for example, let's assume this is a breakout candle with a very small wick. Okay, it is a breakout candle with a small wick. See, the small wick indicates small lesser participation, right? If there is a big selling wick, as I shown in the some of the past charts, if there is a big selling wick, it indicates sellers are really strong. But if the wick is very small, okay, if the wick is very small, so this indicates sellers are very less, then there is a high possibility of price going from upside from here. You look any breakout trade opportunity, it comes like this. See, for example, I will go to the past charts once again. I will go to, for example, BPCL. If there is a breakout trade opportunity to see, it is still breakout is happening, so we cannot take this. I will go to, for example, Maruti Suzuki. See here, price came back immediately here, price came back immediately here, price came back immediately here, right? But if you see here, the price came here, see, it started spending sometime right here, close to 5-6 days, it spent very close to the resistance trend line, right? Then one day it displays a big move, again it didn't came back, there is a big breakout candle, price came back, it took the support exactly at the breakout level. This is called as pullback trade opportunity, and it went upside, right? So this is how breakout happens actually. So we look for some other things. See, for example, if I look for Tata Motors, if I look for Tata Motors, see, the breakout happened in the same manner, right? There is lot of consolidations here. It came back a little bit here, but if you see here, there were a lot of consolidation. It happened, I think, because of the budget and all. See here, there were a lot of consolidation here, just below the resistance trend line, right? Then there is a big breakout candle here, and then price is going up. See, on the breakout candle, the selling wick is very less, right? So price is going up now. So the same logic is applicable, and it works in any time frame actually. Even in lower time frame, see here, the price started consolidation just before the resistance trend line, and it broke with a big resistance, big breakout candle, right? Again, the selling wick is very less on the breakout candle. Okay, so if I go to some other stock, for example, Go to some other stock. We go to some other stock here. I think this is a DV slab. See here, DV slab also the same logic happened. You can see you can draw a proper resistance trend line like this, right? So you can draw a resistance trend line like this. There is a breakout candle. In this case, there was no consolidation. It straight away it broke out because the buyers are really strong. That's why see it went like this. It went like a flag, actually flagpole. So less selling wick and it went up like that. If you go to daily time frame, again there is a see here there is a big gap and it price went upside, right? So now what I do is the assignment is I'm really happy to review and give a comment on each chart for all of you, but you need to do one assignment. The assignment is very simple. You open an Word document. So I have opened Google Sheet document because I use a Mac laptop. I don't have a Word here, but if you use Windows laptop, or you can also do this in Google Sheet, actually Google document, because this also acts like a Word. See what you can do is you can draw a trend line like this. For the past data is also fine because this is from an assignment perspective, and you take a screenshot. Okay, so you take a screenshot and copy the screenshot to the Word document. Just a moment, it is copying because I use a separate software to take a screenshot. One second. You can take a screenshot like this. Let's assume this is the screenshot. You copy the screenshot. You copy the screenshot into the Word document, okay? Like this. And you copy minimum 50 charts. Okay, I will review only if minimum 50 charts are there, because if you draw trend lines for 5 charts, 10 charts, you will not going to learn many things. Okay, so definitely you will not learn many things. So your sheet should contain minimum of 50 charts. If you copy and paste all the 50 charts, whatever the trend lines you have drawn, into a Word document, and you can send it to me on my email ID. So my email ID is like this. I will write it in a little bigger font. So if you send it to my email ID, indrajit.s@gmail.com, I'm happy to review those chart, and I will personally comment on each chart. But you should always remember the rule, friends. I will mention the rules once again. Okay, so try to connect minimum of 2 to 3 price breaks. Okay, this is the first rule, and the second rule is the slope. The slope should be less than 45 degree, and the third rule is draw only 2 trend lines. You should not draw more than 2 trend lines. This is the third rule. And the fourth rule is the price should respect the trend line, right? So if you follow these 4 rules while drawing the trend line, and if you send those 50 charts, earlier I used to say 100 charts, but I know for 100 charts it requires more patience. So I'm asking you to draw trend lines for 50 charts, and if you put it in a Word document and if you send it to my email ID, then I'm personally review the document and I will pass my comments on each chart. If there are any corrections required or improvements required, I will personally write the comments and I will reply back within 1 or 2 days. Okay, so you can make use of this, and as I said in the beginning of my video, 3 lucky winners will win the 2 of my latest book, The Subtle Art of Intraday Trading and How to Make Money in Stock Market Trading, which is published with India's leading publishers like Jaico Publication and Manjul Publications. Okay, So you can grab this chance, and you can also learn how to draw a trend line. You can also win 2 of my books. I hope this video is really helpful, friends. You can share this video with your friends. You can like the content. You can also subscribe to my channel. So see you in the next video with another useful content. Thank you. Bye bye. Good night.